Using the definition of middle schools as those containing grades 5 through 8, 6 through 8, and 7 through 8, there were 4,884 middle schools in the United States in 1970. By 2008, there were 13,227 middle schools with those organizational plans, and by 2012, there were 13,392 middle schools. In addition, several of our participants believe that we now reached a professional and public consensus about what middle schools look like. Bean described the consensus as follows.
And I think people have really come to expect middle schools and to expect them to be of a certain form. I think it is true that it has become more standardized. I think despite protests about the litany of characteristics that would make up a middle school, I think there generally is such a thing as a litany. I think when people talk about middle schools, what they're talking about is 4-person teams, an exploratory program, an advisory program, a block time schedule, and so on and so forth.
Dickinson noted that one of the successes of the movement is that people understand that the middle school is focused on development. Erb claimed that
we now have a pretty strong research basis for interdisciplinary team organization in middle schools, and that team organization is a better way to organize the delivery of core curriculum in schools for young adolescents than our separate, uncoordinated classes.
George pointed out that we now have a common understanding that
teachers who share the same students make more sense than teachers who share the same subject when it comes to the education of young adolescents. And no one anywhere, until maybe recently with No Child Left Behind, no one anywhere quarrels with the idea of interdisciplinary team organization.
Many of the organizational approaches in middle schools are related to matters of ideology, implementation, and responsiveness to young adolescents. Lounsbury and Arnold discuss the importance of smallness in schooling for young adolescents.
Smallness has become a recognized factor in correlation with quality, and that's why we've tried to develop looping and multi-age teaming in schools within a school. Things that create a sense of smallness and a continuity of relationship.
Doda recounted with warmth.
We had in this wonderful school at Lincoln Middle School, these 3 years, we kept the kids. And at the end of the year, at the end of 3 years, after having the same children for 3 consecutive years, the 8th graders would line up at the end of the school day. And with tears and hugs and this magnificent sort of display of affection. And at the junior high school just down the road, the kids would be racing out the door. And, people always, were just stunned by that because they wondered, what are you doing with those children? We loved them, and we were committed to them, and we knew that we were more than facilitators of academic learning. We knew that we were committed to the whole child, and we took that very seriously.
By creating small teams and communities within larger educational organizations, middle school professionals have been able to accomplish much on behalf of young adolescents. Despite the progress and popularity of middle school organization and the proven success of middle school practices, organizational issues are not without controversy. Some middle school leaders remarked that the middle school movement became too preoccupied with organizational aspects of schools or procedural orthodoxy. Lipset stated a concern that organization could become an excuse for not serving young adolescents adequately. I don't want to give anybody an excuse. Oh, we didn't have the right grade organization, so I couldn't teach them. Rather, she explained, that the focus in a middle school should be on how and what is taught.
I think that you could change the grade organization and therefore have an impact without changing your approach to those kids and the curriculum and the instruction and so forth. I think it's just diversionary. I think we will lose a lot of time, spend a lot of money and a lot of effort.
In recent years, some of the research participants expressed a belief that the organizational focus has been changing to a more flexible understanding of middle schools.
Well, I think that it has It has certainly adapted to changing conditions. And I think that the early years of the middle school were characterized by these sort of lists of features that comprise the institution. And if you had the right list of features, you were doing okay. I think the emphasis now has shifted, rightfully so, and in the last dozen years or so, I think there's been a major shift to how all of these things come together to work. And I think there's also a fair amount of interest in alternative ways of organizing things for middle-level kids.
The reorganization of middle-level schools in America has been profound and far-reaching. Middle school is now part of the education establishment. With the restructuring work behind us, middle school leaders can hope that the best is yet to come, that we are now positioned to get to the work of developing and providing the best possible services and education within those structures to maximize the potential of young adolescents as the brightest human capital on earth.